Working. So let's start with my wish. Shruti,
Yes, Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai. My wish, the lover has to keep the wish of the beloved. We wish for my lovers. My wish for my lovers is as follows. Do not shirk your responsibilities. Attend faithfully to your worldly duties, but keep always at the back of your mind that all this is Baba's. When you feel happy, think Baba wants me to be happy. When you suffer, think Baba wants me to suffer. Be resigned to every situation and think honestly and sincerely. Baba has placed me in this situation. With the understanding that Baba is in everyone, try to help and serve others. I say with my divine authority to each and all that whosoever takes my name at the time of breathing his last comes to me. So do not forget to remember me in your last moments. Unless you start remembering me from now on, it will be difficult to remember me when your end approaches. You should start practicing from now on. Even if you take my name only once every day, you will not forget to remember me in your dying moments. Avtar Meher Baba ki Jai. Thank you, Karthik. Over to you.
thank you so much, Avatar and KJ. So, welcome to session 32 of God Speaks, where we saw the stages of waking and stages of sleeping and waking. Now we are going through the involution of consciousness. And these are the planes, the journey through the planes. And the last time we read about the first and the second stage, first plane and the second plane. So, just as a recap, so when you go through the first plane, if you remember, we were seeing that he sees glimpses of the subtle plane. Gross hears he hears celestial music, and the gross knows he enjoys subtle scents. Right, that's in the first plane, and from there he goes to the second plane, and in the second plane he can perform minor miracles of lower degree, and he can also release the infinite energy which he has access to, right? So that's from there we go to the third plane and see further from this point. So before we start, any points, any comments? Let's
Okay.
get yeah, let's get started. Yeah. So this is page 116. Yeah. So this is page 116. Those who are following on the physical book. Sar Meher Baba Ki Jai. The last para. Further involution of consciousness makes it possible for God in the man state to experience the third plane of the subtle world. Here, subtle consciousness gains greater awareness of the infinite energy of the subtle sphere, and God in the man state experiences greater finite power. In this stage, he is capable of performing grand miracles such as giving sight to the blind, restoring limbs to the maimed, and sometimes even raising the dead into life. In this state, subtle conscious God in the man state is also capable of experiencing the different planes and worlds of the subtle sphere, just as a gross conscious human form is capable of traveling from one continent to another using the gross vehicles at his disposal. There is a footnote on raising the dead. Those on the third plane of consciousness can only raise the dead of the subhuman species. So pre-human species. They can raise from the dead. So let's go back and see this in a closer manner. So there is greater ability to do miracles, right? Second, yeah, and uh, it, he enjoys greater finite power. Power, so grand miracles. Examples of that are, okay, let's continue. The second and the third planes of the subtle world are the two major planes which are solely in the domain of the subtle world. The first plane is partially in the domain of the subtle world and partially of the gross world. Similarly, the fourth plane is partially of the subtle world and partially of the mental world. For this reason, the fourth plane is said to be the threshold of the mental world. Now, that should be very clearly visible in the charts. So, if you see the chart, that's just where we are. Okay, the planes, the gross worlds are not explained here, but basically the point Baba's making is the first plane is between gross and subtle. Fourth plane is between subtle and mental. And finally, we'll hear about seventh as well when we get there. Next para. Now, with gradual, though progressive gain in the involution of the consciousness of subtle conscious God in the man state, the consciousness of God experiences the fourth plane of the subtle come mental. In the fourth plane, God in the man state is fully conscious of the subtle body and completely experiences the subtle sphere, and therefore is completely aware of the subtle nature of the subtle sphere, which is infinite energy. This is the very same infinite energy, which is the finite aspect in the nothingness of that infinite and unbounded power of God, which was latent in God's state of everything. In the fourth plane, God, in the man state, is fully equipped with infinite energy, and thus he is now capable of raising the dead, of even and of even creating new forms in new worlds, breathing with life. Subtle conscious God in the man state in the fourth plane is in reality infinite energy personified. So he is in reality energy personified. He is now capable of raising the dead, creating new forms in new worlds, breathing with life. Whereas in the previous plane, so plane three, the it was subhuman forms, and then he could use the infinite energy. He has full access to the infinite energy in this space, in this plane. This infinite energy of the fourth plane of the subtle come mental worlds is not the ordinary so-called energy of the gross world. It is that infinite energy which is called the breath of all life or pran, and which can cause all things to become alive. It is this energy which, when infinite, can create living things out of dust. I think we should read this paragraph slowly again. This is an important paragraph. What is this energy? What is the energy that is getting into the infinite state in the fourth plane? This infinite energy, I'm reading, this infinite energy of the fourth plane of the subtle come mental worlds is not the ordinary so called energy of the gross world. It is that infinite energy which is called the breath of all life or prana, which can cause all things to become alive. It is this energy which, when infinite, can create living things out of dust. Although this energy be infinite, it is by no means equivalent to the reality of that infinite power of God. This infinite power of God, when translated into illusion, becomes the finite aspect of the infinite energy of the fourth plane of the subtle come mental worlds. I think the last para needs a slow reread. Although this energy be infinite, which is prana, it is yet by no
I think
means.
before this, you can read a paragraph which you will have to go further. That
Okay,
one.
I'll read from here again. Yes, I read this twice, so I thought we'll go from the next one.
No, not
I'll read.
go above and read one more paragraph. This is the same infinite energy, which is the finite aspect in the nothingness of that infinite and
Yes, okay.
unbounded power of God. This paragraph needs
I'll
some.
read. I'll read from there. In the fourth plane, God in the man state is fully conscious of the subtle completely experiences the subtle sphere, and therefore he is completely aware of the subtle nature of the subtle sphere, which is infinite energy. He is aware of the subtle nature of the subtle sphere, which is infinite energy. This is the very same infinite energy which is the finite aspect in the nothingness of that infinite and unbounded power of God, which was latent in God's state of everything. So, in the big circle, big E everything, there is a small, I mean, there is a smaller circle, which is the nothing. In that nothing, that aspect of nothing expressed as nothingness is expressed in the subtle plane, in the fourth plane, as infinite energy.
Finite aspect of the nothingness of that infinite and unbounded power of God, which you are trying to explain now in the paragraph you are
Below.
reading.
Yes, yes, yes. So now we can skip, like you said, this paragraph, which is just the capabilities that man enjoys in the fourth plane, and go now to this one. This infinite energy, which is the continuation of the fourth plane of the subtle come mental worlds, is not the ordinary so called energy of the gross world. It is that infinite energy which is called the breath of all life or prana, and which can cause all things to become alive. It is this energy which, when infinite, can create living things out of dust. This is more a explanation of that infinite energy. Now, although this energy be infinite, it is yet by no means equivalent to the reality of that infinite power of God. So, even though this energy is infinite, it is still an expression of the nothingness. And hence, it is not unbounded. I mean, it's not infinite as understood in the bigger reality. Let's go further. This infinite power of God, when translated into illusion, becomes the finite aspect of the infinite energy of the fourth plane of the subtle come mental worlds. So, this infinite power of God, which is in all states, when translated into illusion, that is, when it comes into creation post home point and during the phase of illusion, becomes the finite aspect of the infinite energy of the fourth plane of the subtle mental worlds. So the finite word is used to limit and differentiate the same energy which is infinite in God, but in the fourth plane, it sees maximum expression, yet it is finite.
Yes,
Is that a way to understand it? Any comments?
yes, it's clear now. So even
Okay.
though it may be so great that they can create anything, it is not as equivalent to the power of God.
Of God. Yes.
Jai
Yeah.
Baba, the Satchitananda, which is basically infinite power, infinite knowledge, infinite bliss, is the triune nature of God. So,
Correct.
what it implies here is that this energy of the fourth plane, the infinite energy of the fourth plane of the subtle come mental worlds, is not the so called energy of the gross soul that we know. It is the infinite energy which is called the breath of life of Pran. And this energy is still finite. It's a finite aspect of the real infinite energy, right? The power, infinite power, that Satchitananda state. So, which we know that, uh, the everything and nothing, you have the real everything, real nothing, then the false nothing, then the false everything. So the false everything is basically the gross world aspect, you can say, and the 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 nothingness of the nothing is part of that everything. The aspect that he's talking about. That's the fourth plane. Infinite energy is still a subset of the infinite power, infinite knowledge, infinite bliss, which we call Sachitananda. That's my understanding. Deva.
Yeah. Perfect. Trying to get that diagram, which is very relevant to. I don't know the chapter. Yeah, this one. So if you see this, this is what it is. So the original real nothing in it, because it is everything, also, I mean, the original real everything, because it is everything, also contains the real nothing, but it's completely subsumed and included in the original real everything. That projects the false everything, which is nothing but a set of innumerable nothings, which are temporary. They are temporary nothings. And all of that together is nothing but the creation. All of that is only the expression of the creation. In this journey, in the fourth plane, the expression of the infinite energy sees expression in the fourth plane in a finite form as the peak of energy expression. Right? So that's with that we can get back to.
Jeva, I have a question. Uh,
Sure.
in the diagram, if you can go back to the diagram, this,
Yeah, by the way,
this,
that's from everything and the nothing.
yeah. But the creation um, is a part of false everything. So is creation an illusion?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Undoubtedly.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Okay.
it's apparent. It's not completely false. It's not completely real.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you can look around you. You can see the room. You can see the your family. You're talking. You're reacting to the world. It's all around you. But it
Yeah.
is only as real as it is when you experience a dream when you're dreaming.
Okay.
So when you're in the dream, you're completely convinced it's real, right? Once you
Yeah. Yeah.
wake up, you said, "Hey, was that real?" So
Yeah. Yeah.
now you are in that dream within a dream.
Yeah.
You're
Okay.
you're you're yeah, that's it. So it's apparently real, but not real.
Yeah. Thanks.
Jay Baba, I think that this creation, this false everything that you're showing, like to follow up with Ashok's comment, that creation is an illusion because right from the time of the most original whim, everything is part of the illusion because it's coming from the real nothing. So the real nothing is where this whole most original whim happens. And then this creation, evolution, reincarnation, involution, then realization. So all these are, as you rightly said, are like part of the dream. It's like if you just sit down and close your eyes, you can start imagining that you're going to Mars. You can imagine whatever you want. But ultimately, what you're doing is an imagination. So all this whole creation is part of the divine dream of God, within which we as drop souls are also like holographic images or fractals. We are imagining our own dream. Jai Baba.
Absolutely. So continuing now. Subtle conscious God. Now this is second para 118. Subtle conscious God in the man state, possessing the key to the store of the infinite energy of the fourth plane, is now firmly established on the threshold of the mental world and is confronted by the full blast of the intense desires, emotions, and thoughts, which are the aspects of mind of the mental world. So, as this is in the threshold, you are also exposed to the aspects of the mind and you are confronted. Let me also do this full blast. So, you're confronted with the full blast of the intense desires, emotions, and thoughts, which are aspects of the mind of the mental world, right? So, do you remember the discussion we had in the last meeting where, I mean, last Sunday, where I think all of us got a little greater glimpse into the relationship between mind, energy, and matter, which is beautiful by in the reading of Life at its Best, right? So the dependence and independence of the three were established, and science will still need to figure it out, right? For me, last week was very special because of that. Let's continue. Though the fourth plane is the, sorry, yeah, though the fourth plane is the exalted state of consciousness where God in the man state consciously experiences himself as infinite energy personified, yet it is the state of experiences of the so called darkest night. Because here the consciousness of God in the man state undergoes the experience of being caught, as it were, between the devil and the deep. Fired by intense desires and emotions, the overpowering incitement or temptation to wield and use the infinite energy which is at his command proves a treacherous foe at this juncture when the involution of consciousness of subtle conscious God in the man state is unfailingly and rapidly progressing towards the mental sphere where it will gain mastery over all desires, emotions, and thoughts. So here he is fired by intense desires and emotions, the overpowering incitement, temptation to wield, right? And use the infinite energy proves a treacherous foe. At this juncture, when the involution of consciousness of subtle conscious God is unfailingly, okay. I mean, the rest is about the next phase, which is he's going to overpower and control desires, emotions, and thoughts when he gets into the mental plane. So here, I think this is
Jai
the
Baba.
dark night of the soul, right, Kama?
Yeah, exactly. Dark night of the
Yeah,
soul, and also
correct.
that expression, devil and the deep sea. Actually, it should be.
It should be deep sea.
So
Yes, yes, it should be deep sea. I was
yeah,
thinking of the same.
so it says, Liak, I'm just reading from the AI. Caught between the devil and the deep sea is an idiom describing a situation where someone has to choose between two equally unpleasant or difficult options, leading to a dilemma with no easy way out. There is no positive outcome from either choice. Both options have negative consequences. In simpler terms, you are in a bind. You must make a choice, but both choices are bad. There is no good outcome available, no matter what you decide. Example: imagine if you have to choose between going to your child's school play or working a crucial job interview for a promotion that would provide much needed income. Both options have serious negative consequences, leaving you in a difficult dilemma. Jai Baba.
Real world dilemma. Yeah, but this is a more pronounced dilemma where if you cross this in the right way, then you're home or you're making progress. And that's where again and again Baba has underlined the role of a perfect master and the preferred route being going way. Right? Those are the two things that I am reminded of whenever I think of fourth plane. Yeah, so let's continue. If desires at their zenith emanated by the mental plane, confronting the consciousness of God in the man state in the fourth plane, overpower God in the man state on the fourth plane, and if the forces generated by the infinite energy at his command are released by him, then the experience of the liberation of infinite energy at this juncture often proves fatal, especially when he grossly misuses the forces liberated by infinite energy to satisfy selfish ends indiscriminately. So it proves fatal when he does this, which is he misuses the forces liberated. That can be fatal, right? I continue. At this juncture on the fourth plane, if the power of the infinite energy of the subtle world is indiscriminately liberated, the resultant effect of the complete liberation of that energy is almost unimaginable by gross consciousness. However, an idea could be gathered of that result from the fantastic experiences of the liberation of nuclear energy, which is merely one of the gross aspects of infinite energy of the subtle world. So, this is where the reference to nuclear energy comes, which is in the fourth plane. And Baba says it is the idea could be gathered that the result from the fantastic experiences of the liberation of nuclear energy, which is merely one of the gross aspects of the infinite energy of the subtle world. One second. Let me move this fellow. Okay. Anyway, it's visible. So let me continue. Thus, if the involved consciousness of God in the man state succumbs to the temptation of experiencing the complete liberation of infinite energy in the fourth plane of consciousness, the inevitable experience is so severe that the full consciousness gained and the subtle consciousness experienced totally disintegrate into the most finite consciousness, identifying God once again with the most finite cross form of stone. Consequently, the consciousness of stone conscious God must once again go through the whole process of the evolution of consciousness identifying himself with gross forms until he identifies with man and again wins full consciousness. Right? So this is the dark side of the dark night of the soul. So if you use these powers, succumbs to the temptation of experiencing the complete liberation of infinite energy, then the inevitable experience is so severe that the full consciousness gained and the subtle consciousness experienced totally disintegrate into the most finite consciousness, identifying God once again with the gross form of stone, which we have encountered many times in whenever fourth plane is explained by Baba.
Correctly. Jay Baba. Baba has been reminding us of the allure of the fourth plane.
Fourth plane.
Am I audible? Sorry.
Yeah, you said allure of the fourth plane, and then we lost you.
No, I'm just saying that time and again, at different places in God speaks, the allure of the fourth plane is what Baba, uh, you know, uh, refers to
Warns
as
us.
warns us. Yes, warns us. That's the right word. Warns us about that.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Jay Baba.
Let's continue. It is a fact that when consciousness is once gained, it can never be lost. But the disintegration of consciousness from the fourth plane is the one exception to this rule. This disintegration of consciousness occurs only in the case of fourth plane consciousness, and that too only very, very rarely, when he succumbs to the temptation of misusing the powers of that plane. So, this is the relief, right? So, this happens very, very rarely, but he has warned us so many number of times that I think we have to be super on our guard when we are in the fourth plane. So don't forget, Norm. I know you're ahead. You're going to be in the fourth plane. So just watch out, right? So let's continue. If God, in the man state in the fourth plane, does not misuse the powers of infinite energy, but uses them discriminately without being overpowered by desires, then, with further involution of consciousness, the subtle conscious God in the man state experiences directly the sixth plane of the mental world, skipping over the experiences of the fifth plane of the mental world. So this is a free pass. So if you do not misuse, then you go directly to the sixth plane of the mental world. And but that happens when you do not misuse the powers of infinite energy. So who who goes through now? There are 100 people in fourth plane. 40 of them or 80 of them don't misuse, so they go directly to the sixth plane. There are 20 of them who misuse and they become stones. So who goes to fifth plane? The veiled ones, is it?
No,
Anybody?
the thing is that if you see that 7,000 in the spiritual hierarchy,
Mhm.
you can't have more than the numbers that were given in the
Correct.
7,000. That's 56. And fourth,
Correct.
fifth, and sixth plane, you have only 56. So out of the 56, you are asking at one particular time cycle, how many will become stone? But basically, it is a very, very rare thing because the Sadgurus, the five perfect masters of that time, will prevent that to happen.
No, no,
And
my question is different. Let me rephrase my question. So let's say there
yeah,
are only 56.
right.
Baba says in this paragraph that we just read that if you don't misuse the powers, you actually skip through and go straight to the sixth plane. Correct? So
Yeah,
those souls which didn't misuse will not see fifth plane. Okay?
right,
Now,
right.
the inverse of that is those who misuse. So those who misuse will anyway become stone. So they are out of the
Uh,
planes
uh,
itself,
uh,
right? So
the,
my question
So,
is, who are the ones that go through the sequence, fourth, then fifth. Because the good ones anyway go to sixth, the bad ones anyway go to stone.
No, no, no. Let me
No,
put it
no,
this way.
Karthik, you are mistaken. The answer
Okay.
is in the next paragraph.
Okay. Let's continue.
Okay.
Let's
Let me
read that.
okay. Let me
Okay.
just before
Anyway,
we read. Let
you
me let
comment.
me
Yeah.
give my comment because then I don't
Yeah.
get biased. So from my own intuition, the one thing that I have understood is that very rare case that on the fourth plane a drop soul. Somebody has to mute. Somebody has to mute.
Sorry.
So the point here is that somebody in the fourth plane, yeah, there has to be a very rare drop soul who will be doing, who will go back to the, because the perfect masters make sure that nobody misuses that. Number one, and then coming to your question, going from the fourth to the sixth. See, whenever the people from fourth plane go to the fifth or sixth plane,
We lost you.
Yeah. We lost you, Kama.
But a person who is on that plane, the fifth plane, he also must aware, right? If I do some kind of mistake, I will get out of this all the planes because he has that
Yes
kind of
No,
and
no.
knowledge.
no.
But
He is
still,
aware if he
still,
has been trained by Baba and gone through all the
nothing.
literature
It's just
and the,
that.
yeah.
Karthik, I beg to differ. Once you come onto the fifth plane, it's you have crossed the threshold, so there's no coming back again.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
After
Karthik, you have make a mistake and you can read two paragraphs uh, from before so that this is not the misuse or the use of the power available to help others or things like that. That is referred to here. Whereas in the fourth plane, it is the misuse.
correct. Yes. So
Means you
absolutely,
can read two
I'm
paragraphs
clear on that.
above and then continue.
Sure. Okay. Let me do that. It
They
is a
just
fact. I'm reading again.
gave up.
Ashok, I'm not saying what you're saying, and we are all on the same page. But let's just read and then
Okay,
talk about it at the end of this page.
okay.
It is a fact that when consciousness is once gained, it can never be lost. But the disintegration of consciousness from the fourth plane is the one exception to this rule. This disintegration of consciousness occurs only in the case of fourth plane consciousness, and that too only very rarely when he succumbs to the temptation of misusing the powers of that plane. If God, in the man state, in the fourth plane, does not misuse the powers of infinite energy, but uses them discriminately without being overpowered by desires, then, with further involution of consciousness, the subtle conscious God in the man state experiences directly the sixth plane of the mental world, skipping over the experiences of the fifth plane of the mental world.
So it is
Continue. Yeah,
discretionary use. Okay, next. You can
yeah.
read the
Uh,
next paragraph.
But if God, in the man state, in the fourth plane, neither uses nor abuses the powers of infinite energy, then gradually, with further involution of consciousness, subtle conscious God in the man state in the fourth plane of consciousness crosses the threshold of the mental world and begins to experience the fifth plane of consciousness. I got my answer, right?
Yes.
So it is neither use nor misuse. So you have three categories of use of the power. You get a gift when you reach the fourth plane. That gift you can either use, misuse, or not do anything about it.
Yes.
So the third category is the one that goes to fifth plane. The first category becomes a stone,
Yes.
misuse. The
Yes.
second category goes directly to sixth plane. They don't have experience of fifth plane at all.
Yes. Because he uses it discreetly for
Yeah,
the benefit of others. So he is
correct,
given a bonus to reach the sixth plane,
correct,
escaping the fifth.
correct. I hope it's clear. By the way, we didn't hear you completely, Kama, but we understand what you were trying to say. Now I think it's clear. We just had to wait for one more para. Anyway, there is a footnote on desires. So let's go and see what that is. Desires must be consciously in bold, wiped out because they can create new impressions and in turn further desires, which may lead to further binding actions. Consciousness is preoccupied with such impressions and their physical expression rather than with the real self. If these impressions are wiped away consciously, the soul, Atma, will then begin to perceive the truth and will begin to emancipate itself from the tyranny of worldly desires. The individual, Jivatma, minus life of desires, becomes soul, Atma, and is always the unconscious Almighty. It is while we are living that life must be given up. To renounce worldly desires while retaining consciousness of unconsciousness is the goal of life. So, a little piece of uh, broader role of desires that the editor has introduced here. So it's basically the way we have to relate to desires and the role of desires and impressions in the world, apart from the standard part in the journey, which is we are already in an unconscious state of divinity. Right? I hope it's clear.
Yeah, Baba.
Any, yeah,
So, so this relates to the manonash of entire annihilation of desires.
Yes.
yes. So I think Manonash is specifically mind, if you look at it technically. But yeah, elimination of desires, if there is another word for it, yeah. Because Manonash is specifically on the mind, domination and annihilation of the mind.
Last sentence, I think, needs some explanation by somebody.
This one,
Yes.
to
Yes.
renounce worldly desires while retaining consciousness of unconsciousness is the goal of life.
Retaining
Yeah.
consciousness, unconsciousness is the goal.
So when you retain consciousness of unconsciousness, you're going through illusion with, and you're basically going through the the entire journey that God goes through from beyond the beyond to going back to the conscious state. In that state, renouncing worldly desires is the goal of life. So if you want to make progress in your spiritual journey, you have to retain your consciousness on unconsciousness, which is illusion, which is all of the stuff that's happening around us, but use renunciation as a tool. That's what I take away from this. Renunciation of worldly
Yeah,
desires as a tool. Yeah, Kama.
yeah, Baba. I think that that last line to renounce worldly desires while retaining conscious of unconsciousness, we can actually go back to the discourses. Remember that chapter on sanskaras on consummate consciousness. I
Yeah.
think if you read that again, that will supplement this particular uh, just this line about so um, yeah. So try to read from the previous paragraph. Actually, uh, go back to the previous page. Yeah, correct. One you have highlighted by red.
Yes, 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 yes.
So
We have seen that the possible field of consciousness is limited by the sanskaras. This limitation creates a division of the human psyche into two parts. One part falls within the range of consciousness, and the other part falls beyond it. The unconscious part, in its full extent, is identical with the power that is behind matter. It is referred to as God by the unorthodox religions. The ultimate reality, Bigar, which is symbolically represented through such concepts, can be known fully only by bringing the unconscious into consciousness. An extension of consciousness consists in being conscious of that which was formerly a part of the unconscious. The progressive conquest of the unconscious by the conscious culminates in consummate consciousness, which is unlimited in scope and unhindered in function. Between this higher state of consciousness and the limited, though full consciousness of average humanity, there are about 49 degrees of illumined consciousness. They mark the important stages of growing illumination. So, in the context of what we read in the footnote, all of this is relevant. The aspect that is of use to the spiritual seeker is the aspect of renouncing of desires. So, if you go back and read that footnote now, with this clarity of consciousness, unconsciousness, and the concept of consummate consciousness, I think it will help us. Go back here. Desires, I read again. Desires must be consciously wiped out because they can create new impressions and in turn further desires, which may lead to further binding actions. Consciousness is preoccupied with such impressions and their physical expression rather than with the real biggest self. So instead of God, we identify and are lost in the impressions. If these impressions are wiped away consciously, the soul, Atma, will then begin to perceive the truth and will begin to emancipate itself from the tyranny of worldly desires. The individual, Jivatma, minus life of desires, becomes soul, Atma, and is always the unconscious Almighty. It is while we are living that life must be given up. It is while we are living that life must be given up. I read again. It is while we are living that life must be given up. To renounce worldly desires while retaining consciousness of unconsciousness is the goal of life. Now, I think it is clear. So, I think if I were to comment on this, it's just a focus on renunciation of desires, ROD, towards helping your spiritual progress. And in that is inserted the concept of unconscious God and the state that we find ourselves in and are unaware of it. Right? I think that's the way I understand this. Mamaji?
Baba.
Uh, Here, the two terms, the individual Jivatma minus life of desire. So life is equated to total desire. So if you are devoid of all the desires, you are almost out of life, but still conscious, that is the soul or Atma, and is always unconscious and is always the unconscious Almighty. What I am trying to zero down is that are we becoming conscious of the unconscious state of God before the whim arises?
Before the whim, I don't think so. It's after the whim. So again,
No, no, we are after the whim. That is there. But the state
He's
that we
correct.
reach is the conscious awareness of the unconscious state of God just before the whim.
Yes, the unconscious state of God is actually just before the whim is. Yes, he's from state one to state two of God. State one of God is the unconscious state of God. And so this whole process is actually to wake up from this unconscious aspect, what we call as, what Baba calls as from unconscious divinity to conscious divinity. Here he calls it as unconscious almighty, right?
Yes.
Correct.
So this whole process, technically speaking, is going from unconscious divinity to conscious divinity. The paradox is that God is eternally, infinite reality, but he's going through this divine dream. Like this question was asked, why does it need to do? The only reason is to amuse itself. You know, it has to go through this whole process to imagine that it doesn't know. That is why that essay again, the lover and the beloved, is very relevant in different contexts because there is no other. There is only the divine beloved who is now manifesting through us as human drop souls going through this whole process, like raindrops. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. So basically, uh, uh, is it being referred that from the beyond state to the beyond state of God? Is it from the comma? Is it from the beyond state to the next state? We say 1 to 2 means beyond state to beyond state of God.
No, basically, beyond state of God, yes, that is the most original state of God where he is unconscious of himself. Imagine it's like a baby. But then when it comes to the beyond state of God, the original whim splits into two. Like you have two things happening: infinite consciousness, infinite unconsciousness. So infinite consciousness has already realized itself as Paramatma. We are part of the infinite unconsciousness, including the avatars, basically. So
Right.
the whole thing is that when you reach, like after we continue reading on this, then we will come to that first stage of final fana, which we call nirvana, manonash, annihilation of the mind, where consciousness is, but God is not, because it's the divine absolute vacuum state, which is
Vacuum.
the most original state of God, which can't be explained, basically. Remember, state one of God is unexplainable even by the so called God realized people. So then the second state of God, the second stage of real fana, which we call as Satchitananda or God realization, that is where you are able to experience the Paramatma state, which is the beyond state of God. That is the infinite consciousness. Jai Baba.
Norm had a question long, long back.
Yeah, what I'm thinking is basically भगवान मजे ले रहा है through us, बोर हो गया अभी इंसानों को डालो, इनको 700 साल लाओ, इनको
Yes,
लाओ ले जाओ, फिर इनको बोलो तुम फना करो बका करो. Basically he is having a good time. So now
correct.
from a cheat
That's why
sheet,
it is known as Leela. Leela.
so that's why Leela. So we are basically part of. Now I just wanted to throw this question. He says that desirelessness. At what stages of the game of desirelessness do you rate yourself? Hmm.
It varies every day. It varies every day. When you go into deep sleep, there's no desire. When you're awake now, like depending on your mood or what we call as biorhythm, बोलते हैं ना mood कैसा है आज, like so that
Hmm.
depending on, because look, the universal law of nature is impermanence. So constantly every moment the body is going through multiple changes, gross, subtle, mental. So definitely as long as we are attached to the five physical senses, touch, taste, sound, smell, sight, and the two mental sensations of thoughts and feelings, which is the fifth plane and the sixth plane, then the desires will be there. Only thing, it will be called gross desires or mental desires, subtle desires, mental desires, whatever you call it. So that's it. Hey, Baba.
So in terms of accelerating our pace towards these better qualified stages, Should we bury our desires? Will it give us a fast lane access?
No, you don't have to bury your desire. You can enjoy, but don't get attached. Don't get addicted to anything.
I see.
And
You
also
can, you know,
try
you
to
know,
divert.
there is a beautiful thing in the book called Meher Baba Calling. I'll send it, on, I think in page number 62. Baba clearly says there are two ways of, attaining God realization. One, he said, leave everything, go away. And the other thing is that you just be a householder and enjoy, parties, but always remember the happiness of others at the cost of your own happiness. Okay, Baba.
And when you are partying, you think, I am not partying, Baba is partying.
Exactly, my wish. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I was trying to, kind of push you guys
So
to see
just to just to
where you
add to
stand.
your point, just to add to your point, it is Leela, it is the experience, मजे ले रहे हैं, but मजे ले रहे हैं through himself. So you as himself. So just hold that same thought, but assume you to be that person, that
But then,
entity.
yet again, Baba, like God is very ambitious. He just doesn't get enough. You see, millions, billions of people all over the world. ये एक इंसान से मजे ले रहा है, which means he's more
Uh,
ambitious than everyone else, right?
yeah,
The definition of addiction is God. He is
definitely.
totally addicted. We are partially or at individual level, we have addiction.
Who?
Individual, whereas
Yeah,
God is totally addicted. So he
yeah.
controls everyone. He enjoys through everyone. He enjoys through every animate and inanimate uh, things in the world.
So God has a desire.
Yes, God is full of desire.
Jai
Infinite.
Baba,
That is
I
his
think
leela.
the
uh,
summary of this whole Leela is just cruise around. Fold your hands and say, take me where you want. So just don't involve yourself. Let him have the remote control and let him press the buttons. I think that's the only way you can get anywhere. Otherwise, वो मजे ही ले रहा है हमसे.
no,
Yeah,
the thing is,
absolutely.
if you read The Lover and the Beloved, it's very clear. God is love, and love must love. And to love, there must be a lover and beloved. And God being one eternal, infinite existence, who can he love but himself? That is the crux of everything, the most original whim, the divine dream, blah, blah, blah. I think, simply put, what I feel is that this whole creation process, and once you reach the human form, what we call as God realization, self realization, is basically to experience divine love. That's it. To experience love in everything that, in the waking state.
How
That's
how would you how would you explain it in words? What would that love be like?
well, the love could be basically right from the time you get up in the morning, the way you brush your teeth. It's complete, like I said, from me, meditation is uh, self awareness every waking moment. Everything you do it with complete 100% focus. And as Baba said, don't think you're doing, you're not the doer, you're only the medium. And if you say Baba is doing it, and if Baba is doing it, how will he do it? He will do it very with perfection. So if every activity, minor or major, there is no duality. If you do it with complete focus and concentration and with love, that's it. Basically, we are dissolving our ego. The love is always around us. That is what I keep saying. And the challenge is not about love. The challenge is about our own ego, which manifests in different ways. That's it. Okay, Baba.
Yeah, Baba, thank you.
Okay, so let's continue. So the last para in 119, that's where we were. The fifth and sixth planes of consciousness are fundamentally the planes of the mental sphere of the mind. In the mental world, mental conscious God, in the man state, is master of his mind, whereas in the gross and subtle worlds, when gross and subtle conscious, he was the slave of his mind. So after you enter the mental world, you're able to become the master of his mind. So in the gross world, he was slave of his mind. Okay. With the progress of the involution of consciousness of subtle conscious God in the man state, the experiences of the fifth plane of the mental world are realized by the mental sense, which is only that of seeing. So the only capability that's there from a sense standpoint is only that of seeing in the mental world. In the man state, when God is mental conscious, he is not conscious of the gross or subtle bodies, but he does work through the gross body and subtle body, not directly, but on and from the mental plane. So, even if mental conscious God in the man state is not conscious of the gross and subtle bodies, and therefore does not realize the experiences of the gross and subtle worlds, he still can unconsciously utilize the gross body through various aspects of the gross. He is thus observed eating, drinking, sleeping, seeing, hearing, and feeling as an ordinary gross conscious human form, although he is all the while conscious only of the mental body with his mental sense of only seeing. Similarly, he can unconsciously utilize his subtle body through various aspects of infinite energy and is thus observed moving about actively and performing acts while all the time he is only conscious of the mental body, the mind, and only consciously experiences the mental world with his mental sense. Mental conscious God in the man state, in the mental sphere, has now only one sense, and that is seeing. Mind persists through the fifth plane of consciousness. In the sixth plane of consciousness, the mind itself becomes the inner eye and sees God. In the seventh plane of consciousness, the mind is annihilated. So, what can you do in the fifth and the sixth plane? You can only see, but you can unconsciously also do all the stuff that you can do in the gross and the subtle worlds. So you'll carry out your activities, but your only faculty that's working is seeing, right? Mental seeing.
Jay Baba,
Yeah.
I think what you're saying is basically we know that in the when you're in the mental sphere, you use your mental body directly, which is where you're seeing it from a mental aspect, whereas you will be using your subtle body and gross body indirectly. So you'll be like a normal person, eating, drinking, all that kind of thing. So that's the difference between the gross world, subtle world, and mental world is the body that you use is going to be different, correct? In the direct sense. Yeah, Baba.
Yeah, I think the key thing is the last two lines of this paragraph, where the mind is still there or in the fifth and the sixth, and then finally is annihilated in the seventh, to Ashok's earlier point of mononash.
Yeah, Jay Baba, just want to say that when they say seeing, you're basically seeing God, isn't it?
Mind's eye. You're using the mind's eye of seeing, the only faculty available to you in fifth and sixth.
Would you call it the third eye?
Mm, I don't know. Maybe we can. Baba's not used that reference. Or has he? In discourses, there is something like that, right?
I think that when you look at the seven chakras, the sixth chakra is basically in the forehead, right? The seventh is the Sahasrara, which is on the top of the forehead, but this is in the center between the eyebrows, which is the sixth chakra. And fifth chakra is in the throat chakra. And fourth is, of course, the heart chakra. So just an analogy, nothing else. Okay,
Yeah.
Baba.
As an analogy, yes, that makes sense.
And this example for this seeing and using the gross and settled body, I think Shirdi Sai Baba's stories, if you read, this may become because he used to do so many things sitting at one place, but his body, he used to be, people used to sort of feel that he is not in his body, but his body used to do certain things. I think that may draw some parallels to understand.
I think that ability is called Gauss or Abdal, one of the two. Uh, I think you are able to consciously leave your body, and yes,
This came to my mind how to understand this. Using your gross and subtle body, but all your activity is only by being in the mental plane.
correct. And there were times where Baba Sai Baba has Sufi game goes. I'm trying to find a reference for that. Goes. If anybody has, please. Maybe I'll use all the AI stars, please.
You are the AIA for our group.
Now, Kama is the AI guy. He's the one using perplexity. And you are the one using ChatGPT now. God, I'm not able to find it. If I find it, I will send you. I think the expression is Gauss. Maybe it's there in discourses, if at all. Sorry, I'm in the wrong book. No, so it's some other book. But we did encounter that. I'll find it and share something. Gauss and Abdal, where you are able to use, I mean, basically travel from one physical body to another. That's what probably you're reminded of in the case of Sai Baba, where it is documented, where he said that protect my body and then I'll come back. If I don't come back in whatever time, then I'm not coming back at all. Something like that. Yeah. Okay, let's continue. Hence, it is that mental conscious God in the man state, in the fifth plane, experiences the impressions generated through his mental sense of seeing and consequently experiences the mental world with the mental body, mind. He is now conscious only of mind. In this stage, God in the man state is capable of controlling the minds of gross conscious and subtle conscious states of God in subtle conscious and gross conscious human forms. So, this is the fifth plane experience. So, in this stage, capable of controlling the mind of, yeah. So, this is only one step away from universal mind. So, here you're not able to do, you're not operating at the universal mind level, but everybody below you, when I say below, I'm talking from a planes and progress standpoint, you're able to control their minds. So you can influence the thoughts and desires of literally everybody. But in the fifth plane, mental conscious God in the man state is totally incapable of performing any miracles because he is now in the mental sphere and no longer in the subtle sphere of infinite energy, which, when released, resulted in miraculous powers. Yet, because he is mental conscious and is about to become big M mind personified, he controls the minds of the subtle conscious state of God and becomes the source which incites those in the state of subtle consciousness to perform miracles. He is the one who, in the mental conscious state, according to the desire and will of his mind, is capable of taking, controlling, or guiding the minds of those not in the subtle of those in the subtle conscious planes, either to perform the miracles or not, though he himself in his mental conscious state cannot perform any miracle. So he will use a fourth planar who has access to infinite energy of the fourth plane and hence can perform miracles. He will use his mind, that is, the fifth planar will use the mind of the fourth planar and influence the conduct of miracles. Maybe I can underline something here. It was checking, controlling those not in the circle. Yeah. Okay. God, in the man state of mental consciousness, is capable of creating and controlling the thoughts, desires, and emotions of all minds in gross and subtle conscious states. He is himself stable as soon as he experiences the state of the fifth plane, from which state the consciousness involved thus far can never devolve or disintegrate. So you cross the threshold, there's no way of slipping back. So the first line is a repetition. And in the second line, he is saying that you can never dissolve or disintegrate. As the involution of consciousness of mental conscious God in the man state gradually progresses deeper and deeper, he experiences his mastery over the mind, and the consciousness of mental conscious God is said to be mind personified with that mastery. Thus, God in the man state now becomes fully conscious of the mind or the mental body and experiences the whole of the mental sphere or the mental world in the sixth plane of mental consciousness. This experience is of seeing God in his original state face to face. This seeing is the seeing of the mental consciousness with the mental sense of seeing. In other words, God in the man state sees God everywhere and in everything. This is what we generally know. What is explained technically is in the lines above. So he uses the mental seeing faculty to see divinity in all things around him, right? This experience is of seeing God in his original state. Seeing, yeah. Any comments?
That face to face also you can underline,
Yes, correct.
because he is still away from God.
God, yeah.
Seeing it as, yeah, that is
Somebody apart.
yeah, apart.
Okay, let's continue. Right from the first plane, the involution of consciousness progressed gradually and consistently as the consciousness of God underwent fewer and scarcer experiences of multifarious and diverse opposite impressions, which grew fainter and fainter. Therefore, during the progress of the involution of consciousness of God, the diverse opposite impressions gradually lessened and became fainter until the involved consciousness of God in the sixth plane was fully conscious of the mental body and experienced the mental world in full with practically no impressions at all, except for a last faint trace of residual impressions of opposites. In other words, the involved consciousness fully identifies with the mind and God tends to realize that he is mind. Now, God, in the man state as mind, has the last finite impression that he, as mind, sees God face to face in all things except in his biggest self. This is the state of God in the man state in the sixth plane of consciousness. So, this is, let me go back. So, first is it gets fewer and scarcer and multi opposite impressions, which get fainter and fainter. Fully conscious of the mental body and the mental world, with, here is the key thing, with practically no impressions. But there is one, or a last faint trace of residual impressions of opposites. Now, as the last finite impression that he, as mind, sees God face to face in all things except in his self. This is the state of God in the man state in the sixth plane of consciousness. Hope it's clear. So the last residual part of the ego and the identification of the ego is with the individual mind, but the individual mind has only one role or one activity or one action, and that is it uses the mental seeing, in quotes, to see God everywhere. It it recognizes that, right? So how many of us are in sixth plane right now? Okay, let's continue. This mental conscious God in the man state of the sixth plane, practically void of all impressions at this point and only conscious of mind, is now confronted by God himself and sees him face to face and also sees him in all things. But he does not see his self in God because he is still impressed with the consciousness of mind and takes himself as mind. So that's a repetition. But yeah, this is where he says it first. So he involved consciousness fully identifies with mind, and God tends to realize that he is mind. Same thing is said here, but he does not see himself in God because he is still impressed with the consciousness of mind and takes himself as the mind. This mental conscious God in the man state, associating himself with mind, is conscious of himself as mind and experiences himself as still something other than God because he actually sees God face to face with his mental consciousness. Then, too, he sees God much more vividly and intensively than in the gross or subtle states of God. He can see the gross and subtle objects in the gross and subtle words. So he can see God much more intensively and vividly. And yeah, the other objects are there in the gross and subtle worlds. He's continuing to see that. In this stage, the consciousness of God, which had experienced diverse and innumerable opposite impressions, now experiences the last trace of dual impressions of opposites. Therefore, the conscious God in the man state on the sixth plane is yet conscious of duality. That is, he identifies himself as mind and differentiates himself from God. Right? So the same thing, same idea is repeated and underlined and clarified. In order to understand the involution of consciousness in the mental sphere more clearly, it is necessary to understand that the mental sphere of the fifth and sixth planes of consciousness is the domain of the mind. This mind of the mental planes has two sections. In the first section, the state of mind is inquiring or reflecting. In this state, mind functions as thoughts. The thoughts, low thoughts, good thoughts, bad thoughts, material thoughts, spiritual thoughts, and thoughts of every kind, type, and state. In the second state, in the second section, the state of mind is impressive or sympathetic. In this state, mind functions as feelings, feelings of suffering and emotions, feelings of desires and longings, feelings of pangs of separation, and feelings of every kind, type, and state. So, pause here. Any comments?
Jay Baba, again, it comes to the fact about the significance of male and female incarnations. That Baba says men excel in the qualities of mind and will, women excel in the qualities of the heart. But heart and mind have to balance each other, and but heart always has precedence over the mind. So if you look at the male and female gender, men are much more thought oriented.
Sanjay ji, you have to
नीचे
mute.
से लाइट या ऊपर से लाइट छोटा सा स्पॉटलाइट अगर दे
Yeah, go ahead, Kama. I muted him.
Okay, so
Yeah.
basically what we are seeing here is that, you know, if you understand our own relationships with other gender, there is always this question about feelings. That men actually we are much more thought oriented, and women are much more feeling oriented. I mean, but it's a, of course, the dominating factor with men is like we think more than we feel. Comparative vis-a-vis, I'm talking about myself. Okay, so let's not generalize. But the thing is that feeling is much more of a superior quality, which I think is more related towards intuition compared to thinking, which is more like an analytical reasoning mind. So again, coming back to another quote, as Baba said, man has gone from the age of animal instinct to the age of analytical reasoning mind, and now this is the age of intuition. You know, yeah, Baba.
Okay. Let's knock on. Since mind of the mental sphere has distinct dual functions, it is inevitable that the experiences in the field of mind, that is the mental sphere, must be distinctively of two kinds also. Thus, the mental sphere has two domains. Therefore, the domain of the fifth plane of consciousness is of thoughts, and the domain of the sixth plane of consciousness is of feelings. Consequently, the
You
consciousness of
you can also, sorry, you can also underline the go above a little bit. Mind of the mental sphere has distinct dual functions. I think that would
yeah, yeah, correct. So we'll have a quiz question now. How do you get this copy online? This book, the one I'm marking up like this. This is to test our tech tips of yesterday. So all you need to do is go to the description in the YouTube video, and the first link you see is the ebook link that we are using. So just reminder of that. Okay. Let's
okay.
continue.
You're talking,
So
you're talking about Meher Baba Awakens, right?
no. Yeah, in the channel on the particular video, any God Speaks video that any of the playlists of the current reading, if you go to the book, you will see. I mean, if you go to the description section, let's do it again. Maybe it will help everybody.
Yes. In fact, I had that question in my mind, so it's good.
Okay, so if you see this,
Yes.
that's the last video. And if you see the description, right there, the first one is this, and you do not need to be signed in. You just open this, it should open up.
Okay, okay.
To prove that, I'm opening a new private window, and it should open up. There it is. And this is exact copy of what I am working on.
Good.
So it will have all the uh, markings as you see it. Yeah. After I save today, of course. So it will have all the saves since this minute. Anyway, let's continue. Consequently, the consciousness of mental conscious God in the man state in the fifth plane identifies with the first section of mind, which is inquiring or reflecting mind. So this is the first part in the fifth plane. Therefore, this mental conscious God in the man state of the fifth plane is the creator and master of thoughts, as he is thoughts personified, and is accordingly capable of controlling only the thought section of all minds of all gross and subtle conscious states of God. This is often misinterpreted as controlling the minds of all gross and subtle conscious states of God. But the fact is that God in the fifth plane of consciousness does not control the mind as a whole, but controls only that state of mind which functions as thoughts. So, sorry, be capable of controlling. Yeah. So that aspect of the mind which functions as thoughts can be controlled when you are in the fifth plane. Mental conscious God in the man state in the fifth plane of consciousness, while identifying himself as inquiring or reflecting mind, emanating only thoughts, does not identify himself with the second section of mind and is therefore still incapable of establishing mastery over feelings, that is, emotions and desires. So the key thing here is he does not have mastery of emotions and desires. With
I can have
greater
an
involution,
acronym. You can have an acronym FED, feelings, emotions, desires.
FET, yes. Yeah. With greater involution of consciousness, mental conscious God in the man state of the fifth plane progresses into the sixth plane of consciousness, wherein he gains consciousness of the second section of mind of the mental sphere, and thus tends to identify himself with that second section of mind, that is, impressive or sympathetic mind. So this happens in the sixth plane.
Wait a moment. Let them finish.
Men- you have to mute Nomita. Mental conscious God in the man state in the sixth plane of consciousness experiences the mental world with the mental sense of seeing through incomplete identification with feelings, and thus God in the man state is not thoughts but is feelings personified. Therefore, he experiences consciously the feelings of seeing God face to face continuously in all things and everywhere. He feels seeing God everywhere continuously, but he cannot feel seeing himself in God as God. And what is the reason for that? The reason is the last impression, where he is identifying himself as mind. For this reason, he cannot reconcile feelings of sight of God with his own identity as God because he still identifies himself with feelings. He feels for, longs for, and pangs for union with God, whom he, at this stage, feels seeing face to face. So the phrase is feels seeing face to face. So
I have some
From it,
confusion.
yes, Boli, what is the confusion?
So, confusion is earlier Kama said he was talking about men and women. Men excel in the qualities of mind, women excel in the qualities of heart, feeling, emotion, blah, blah, blah. Now, mind and feeling is getting connected here. This is the second section of mind with feelings.
Correct. Explain.
So,
Correct.
so let's keep feelings as a expression or whatever you call it, an experience. Where is it coming from, mind or heart? And what is the interconnection?
Even
Come on, you want to
even
answer that?
even feeling is of the mind. You have to go transcend feeling because feeling is part of the sensation. Like excuse me. So we have the
Mm-hmm,
five physical sensations: touch, taste, sound, smell, sight. The gross
mm-hmm,
desires.
mm-hmm.
The mental desires is basically the basically one is dealing with thoughts and dealing with feelings. You have a good thought and you have a good feeling about it. That is also part of a desire. Like so, you have to transcend because uh, all the planes of involution are part of the illusion. Only thing is that in the mental sphere, the impressions are very weak and very fine. So the ultimate stage is only manonash, no impressions.
My
Feelings
question
also,
is, my
yeah,
question is
yeah.
interrelation of feelings with heart or with mind or with both.
You can say both. Yes, mind. You can say mind is thought, and the feelings could be that intuitive heart. One can. I think it has to be very contextual. I think yes.
I think that's what
Um,
it is. It's contextual. And in this context, the heart does not have a role. You are already in the fifth plane of consciousness where you are in
Right.
the mental sphere. And the heart is just one of the aspects of the uh, lower planes, the gross plane. And here you're dealing with only the mind. So in the context of where what we are reading, though Kama made that fair point, which is heart and mind, the heart does not have a role here, is my understanding.
so eventually you have to drop the heart and deal with mind only.
No, nothing to do with the
No,
heart.
not like that. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead, Kama.
Okay,
You had me
but
there.
I
Heart keeps going by itself in the background. I'm
so
sorry.
heart
The
is the
heart goes in the
background and mind
background.
is the front.
The mind is the front, and mind has two sections. As per Baba's God speaks, we have to cognize the fact that the mind has two sections, two functions. One is the fifth plane where you have domain of mind dealing with thoughts and domain of mind dealing with feelings.
Okay.
That's how you have to accept it.
अभी आपने बोला कि heart takes the precedence over mind always. अभी बोल रहे mind takes the precedence over heart. मैं confused हो गया यार.
Ah, okay, I think it again, as he said, I think it only comes down to when you are dealing with a woman, okay? Then you have to use a different tactic. That's it.
No, as far as
Okay.
physiology and anatomy, also, heart doesn't have any center for feelings or things like that. It is all in the mind, the heart of the mind, and the thought of the mind. That is
I love that
the
explanation, Mamaji.
Yeah,
I
that's
agree with
beautiful.
you.
Doctor
I agree with
Mamaji,
you.
can you explain that again, please? Can you again? It's a good point what you said.
no. As far as I know, for the medical science or the gross, uh, is all living beings related. So the heart has one function of pumping blood. Apart from that, there is no other organ or a
Role or
center for any feeling there. But we
Correct.
associate that feeling sense to the heart. That portion of the heart where we associate the feeling portion, that is in the mind itself. So it is the second part of the mind, not the thoughts, but the feeling part of the mind.
Yes. Super.
I'll also add something here. Ramana Maharshi talked about the spiritual heart on the right side. Doctor, if I'm correct, if I'm not incorrect, is the heart physical heart on the left side?
Yes, left, slightly left to the center.
Okay, so there is a literature with Ramana Maharshi where he talks about the spiritual heart, and that is why remember that when we use our hand and put it across our chest, it's basically we are pointing towards our spiritual heart. That is how we can look at it. Jai Baba.
Yes, if there is anything like that, I am not aware of that. But as far as the say anatomy, physiology of the human body or any animal or developed species, there is no functionality associated with the heart relating to feelings, as far as I know.
That's the physical, scientific, or rather, physical
Yes,
expression,
yes, yes,
physical, uh, uh, what should I say? What's the word I'm looking for? Physical aspects of the
Physiology.
heart, but figuratively, and even Baba does it. Baba's also said heart is dominant. If you go to discourses, the heart prevails, and so on. So that's more like the understanding from uh, conceptual level,
yes.
analogical level, from a scientific or a physical level. You are absolutely right. I think that, but that's a good way of understanding how the mind is finally the seat of even the thoughts and
Yes,
feelings.
yes.
Yeah,
Jai
Jai
Baba,
Baba.
Karthik, are you looking for the word physiology?
correct. Physiology, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Jai Baba. So I just did a this thing on the spiritual heart. It says like this: for Ramana Maharishi, the spiritual heart is the core of one's being, the center of consciousness, and the source of the capital I thought. It's a non-physical psychic center, sometimes described as being in the right side of the chest, that the adept experiences as the capital self or awareness itself. The path to self realization involves inquiring into the capital I thought and its source, which is the spiritual heart, the true nature of reality. What the spiritual heart is, the source of the self, it's the central point of one's being from which the capital I thought and thus consciousness arises. Seat of consciousness, it is the place where consciousness enters the human form and where awareness of the capital self resides. The heart is not a physical organ, but a spiritual reality that is neither inside nor outside the body.
Beautiful.
It can be experienced through the continuous feeling of capital I, or the awareness of one's own awareness. Its location on the right side of the chest, while not physical, Ramana Maharishi pointed to the right side of the chest as the location where the subtle body receives consciousness and where the capital self can be located through meditation. It's a psychic or subtle center distinct from the physical heart, which is located on the left side of the body. The primary way to realize the spiritual heart is through the practice of self inquiry, asking, who am I? To trace the capital I thought back to its source. Through diligent practice, one can learn to experience the spiritual heart as the center of one's being, a feeling of self awareness that is always present. It's crucial to understand that the spiritual heart is not the blood pumping muscular organ in the chest. Meditation is not about a physical spot, but about focusing the mind on the capital self, which is the heart. Jai Baba.
Clarified.
Excellent,
I
Mr.
have
AI.
some I have some explanation different from Ramana Maharshi.
Sure.
So I did a chat GPT and asked the question: heart as a physiological responder. Heart responds to signals from autonomic nervous system, which regulates involuntary processes like heartbeat and breathing. When we feel emotions, the brain, especially some medical terms, amygdala, hypothalamus, and brainstem, activates the ANS. Fear, anxiety, or excitement, heart rate increases. Heartbeat feels stronger or faster. Calm or contentment, heart rate slows. Rhythm becomes steadier. This is why we feel emotions in our chest, because the heart physically reacts. Heart brain communication is the second bullet. The heart sends constant feedback to the brain via vagus nerve and other pathways. Research shows that the heart's rhythm patterns influence how the brain processes emotions and stress. A calm, steady heart rhythm supports emotional regulation, focus, and resilience. Chaotic rhythms often accompany stress, fear, and or anger. So the heart doesn't just follow the brain, it also shapes our emotional experience. I don't know how to place it in spiritual context, but heart
No,
does have a role to play. Mamaji, maybe you can
if I
explain
am
better.
allowed to say here, what you read is heart is influenced by so many things away from heart, like say the enzymes or the hormones and nervous stimulation from vagus and all that. That doesn't mean the feeling is in the heart. Heart reacts to these things. So the stimulus comes from somewhere else. So that means the center which influences the heart to deregulate or regulate depends on away from heart. So that's why the way we refer to heart as the center for love or things like that is sort of non-factual. Uh, I don't say fictitious, non-factual in the sense that it is not scientific to say like heart is center for feeling, but heart may react for feeling.
Yeah, I
So
think, Mamaji, you said accurately. I didn't read the summary.
yes, yes,
Summary says scientifically, emotions originate in the brain, but the heart mirrors them through physiological responses.
yes.
The two are tightly linked via the nervous system. So the heart contributes to how strongly we feel and regulate emotions. That's why heart and feelings remain connected in both biology and culture. So we experience something in the chest when the heartbeat goes up, heartbeat goes down, there's excitement, fear, those kind of feelings. So that's
Correct.
why people associate it with heart, but actually it's coming from the brain. So brain section A and B, which is mentioned in Baba's book that we are reading, is correct. Technically, that is correct, but symbolically, section B maybe can be associated with heart,
Yes.
which Kama explained earlier.
Yes, yes. As
Yeah,
they
I
say
think
that it's the poor heart actually. वो दिल में दर्द होता है, and actually the signals come from somewhere else. That's what it
Yes.
is.
So in this
but
context, I request some of you
Fail
to
भी हो
at least
जाता है बेचारा. The pressures are sometimes so strong that it fails. There are heart attacks because of the
I
mental stress.
know, yeah.
I know.
Exactly. Brain fail नहीं होता, heart fail हो जाता
Heart fail हो जाता है.
वो बेचारा fail ही हो जाता.
so
Sorry, Mama
एक
ji, you were
last
saying something.
confusion create कर दूंगा for us to
Okay.
think through further. Uh, the mind is the brain is not the seat of the mind spiritually. It's it's the closest that we can think of, right? But the mind is beyond the brain. And in fact, science does not even know recognize what or the mental sphere and the mental body. What is it? Is it the brain? No, it's beyond that. is my understanding based on all that I've read. But yeah, the closest physiological representation of big M mind and small brain, because
uh,
that, right, Mamaji?
Brain is
I
only a hardware. Brain is only a hardware. Every time the
Correct.
body, the soul reincarnates, it comes with a new brain, but the mental body gets preserved based on the sanskaric impressions.
yes.
Correct.
In this
Because
regard, especially Kamakoti, you had sent some forwards, and I have gone through that, and I have given my impression as a response to that. That also relates to what we are talking today here right now. So please go through that and then tell me what you think of.
Okay.
Others also can see that because the contextually it has come up today in this discussion. That is
perfect.
Sankara and what's something I don't know right now.
Yeah, I remember the message you're talking about. I'll go back and read it, and so should everybody else. So last 2 minutes, 1 minute. So Gauss and Abdul are mentioned in Wayfarers. So the Gauss is a must who can disconnect their limbs. See the last line, last two lines, are able to disconnect the limbs from the bodies when in a certain state of consciousness. And the other is Abdul, and Abdul is, yeah, he is an Abdul, and that he especially worked amongst children. No. Okay, the previous line. Later explained that he was a borrowed agent who had the capacity to project his body to any place. That is, he was an Abdul. So, an Abdul and Gauss are specific features which probably you were referring to when we were talking about Sai Baba. Anyway, with that, thanks for sticking around for much longer than uh, usual. And it was so gripping, the mind versus heart chat, that we stayed back and put two AIs to the test and also squeezed our own little brains. So I wish you all a great week ahead. And with that, we will end on this note.
Jai
God
Baba.
Jai
Meher Baba
Baba.
Ki Jai.
Happy Jai.
Baba,
Jai
Baba.
Baba. Jai
Jai
Baba.
Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Jai
Jai
Baba.
Baba.